coming to your senses. There's this powerful line in the story of the prodigal son. And it literally has these words, and he came to his senses, or coming to his senses. He realized where he was and the situation that he was in. And it's literally on the other side of all of this, wild living and spending away his inheritance and now being completely destitute, working for some farmer and feeding pigs, and he's putting the pig slop out there in the trough, and is literally tempted to get down on his hands and knees and start eating it. And then coming to his senses, he realizes, look, even the hired hands back on my father's farm, they have a place to sleep and good food to eat. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go home. I'm going to go back to my father. What a beautiful moment in our life to come to our senses, right? How do we take advantage of the Lenten season for that kind of moment to happen to us? I don't think it needs to be just a one-time thing. I think this is something that God can bring us to many times over the course of our life, where we come to our senses and we see things for how they really are. I want to give us 4 very simple, practical things that we can do to be in a posture of receptivity where we can come to our senses in just the course of our day-to-day lived experience. So one, very simply, I call this stretch for silence. Do you take time in your life, particularly spiritually, just day to day, where you just are silent, quiet, shut off all the noise? I remember doing this once with a teenager. We were on a pilgrimage over to Europe for World Youth Day, and he wanted me to help him learn how to pray. And I said, well, you really can't pray if you can't be quiet. So let's just spend some time, kind of developing the muscle for silence and for contemplation. We're going to call it stretching for silence. When I first sat down the very first time and I said, I'm just going to time you and see how long you can be quiet, he only made it for 30 seconds. I mean, it was pitiful. But over the course of the next couple of weeks, he really grew in a greater and greater capacity for it. So I just want to encourage you, just start by just check yourself. How long can you be silent? And stretch your ability to be silent and listen and hear, right? So that's one, stretch for silence. 2, practice awareness. Start to ask God for the grace to be more and more aware of what's going on inside you. What are the thoughts, feelings, and desires that are moving in your heart? And how is God maybe desiring to speak to you in those thoughts, feelings, and desires, right? To do that, we have to practice awareness. So many of us, we're so busy. I mean, first of all, we're not spending time in silence, right? That's why we start with stretching for silence. But 2, we're just not aware. We're so busy, we're so active, we're just constantly on the move from the minute that we wake up to the minute that we fall in bed, exhausted at the end of the day. We don't spend much time actually just being aware. What is moving inside me? What's moving in my heart? Particularly those deeper things that are really on, kind of the deepest level of my heart. So stretch for silence, practice awareness. 3, use good discernment. When you start to get in touch with those things that are moving inside your heart, you got to be aware that there's different sources to the things that you're going to hear, right? Some of those are coming from you. Some of them are coming from the enemy. And some of them are coming from God. St. Ignatius of Loyola has this very simple process of discernment. He calls it be aware, understand, take action. Be aware of the things that are moving, the thoughts, feelings, and desires that are moving in my heart. Understand, where are they coming from? he's talking about good use of discernment. Are they coming from my human spirit? Are they coming from God? Or are they coming from the enemy? So when we start to become aware of those things move in our heart, we got to use good discernment, right? We understand where they're coming from and then take action. If it's coming from God, I want to receive it and receive it generously. If it's coming from the enemy, I want to reject it and reject it decisively. And if it's coming from my human spirit, I want to be careful because the enemy can frequently manipulate my human spirit. So I stretch for silence, I practice awareness, and then as I become more and more aware of the things moving interiorly in me, I use good discernment. I want to be open and receptive to the stuff that God's saying to me, but not to everything that's going on in there, right? And then 4, very simply, particularly in this Lenten season, we're kind of rounding the corner into the 4th week of Lent. Be aware of divine appointments. Don't miss divine appointments. Obviously, stretching for silence and practicing awareness and using good discernment, this is all stuff of prayer and the interior life. But one of the greatest ways that God speaks to us and helps us kind of come to our senses and reveals things to us is many times when we encounter other people. Be open to those human encounters, be open to those experiences in your day-to-day life where you're going to run into other people and then God's going to speak to you because of what you experienced with this other person. He's going to reveal something to you or possibly convict you of something or give you some encouragement. Don't miss the divine appointments. So 4 simple things that you can do to really put yourself in the greatest posture to come to your senses or to allow God to bring you to your senses. Stretch for silence, practice awareness, use good discernment, really hinge, or, kind of lock in on those things that God is wanting to say, and then don't miss the divine appointments that God has for you during this Lenten season.